The Denver Broncos are in win now mode, and it's not just talk, it's all about that action, boss. Not only is it a trade that was proposed to us that we said no to, today it was the signing of a new player and the cutting of a really, really highly sought after undrafted free agent. All of that shows that Sean Payton isn't just talking about the fact that we aren't rebuilding, that we're going to win now. It's not just George Payton. It's not just all the players we heard from yesterday, that our actions are matching our very, very lofty claims of making the playoffs this year. And we now have the receipts that show that we had opportunities to, if we were truly rebuilding, we had several opportunities this offseason to stockpile picks. We know how much George Payton loves his picks. Sean Payton proved that, nope, we got the talent right now to win, and we're going to keep that talent and shock the NFL. We're going to break it all down and a lot more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ben, diehard Denver Broncos fan. If you think the Broncos are going to shock the world, helps me out a ton if you would like and subscribe. So the big offseason drama obviously all surrounded Brandon Aiyuk and his holdout, or hold in, I guess is what they were calling it, with the San Francisco 49ers. That made us all incredibly thankful to have Courtland Sutton as our wide receiver one, because he was no drama whatsoever. He totally could have done a very similar thing to the Broncos had he wanted to, and he didn't. He handled it definitely above reproach. He missed a couple of voluntary OTAs, but even during that holdout and missing those voluntary camps, he was tweeting about how his goal is always to win a Super Bowl with the Broncos. So very thankful that that's how it all played out with the entire Courtland Sutton situation. But today what we are hearing is that Brandon Aiyuk was ready to go to Pittsburgh Steelers and join in with Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin and that entire squad over in the Pittsburgh area and play for the Steelers. But the San Francisco 49ers were not willing to part with Aiyuk unless they had a top-flight wide receiver coming back to them. And the Steelers were not going to send that. And so their contingency was, hey, we need another wide receiver one if we're going to let Aiyuk walk. And so first off, this says a ton of great stuff about Courtland Sutton, that the 49ers, who evaluate wide receiver talent better than any team in the league, like a brilliant offensive genius in Kyle Shanahan, thinks that Courtland Sutton is good enough to replace Brandon Aiyuk. Well, here's the deal. The San Francisco 49ers were going to send a third-round pick for the Denver Broncos for Courtland Sutton. And guess what? Sean Payton said no. And to me, that is fantastic news on just so many fronts. The first front that I said already, if the 49ers think that Courtland Sutton is an adequate replacement for Aiyuk, that's great news. The second great news is that they offered a third-round pick. And I just can't help but think of Keenan Allen, who's one of the better wide receivers I've watched and we've faced twice a year for however many years. He only got a fourth-round draft pick to be traded from the Chargers to the Bears. And so you're getting, Courtland Sutton is getting a bigger trade package offer to him than even the Chargers got for Keenan Allen. And if you look at Stefon Diggs, that Stefon Diggs trade was a second-round pick for Stefon Diggs, but the Bills threw in a fifth and a sixth-round draft pick. So when you look at the points and how all that plays out, you're saying that Courtland Sutton is getting better trade packages thrown his way to the team that he was on than Stefon Diggs and Keenan Allen. And so that shows me there's been a lot of balking across the NFL, Courtland Sutton's not a true wide receiver one. And you're just seeing, well, San Francisco obviously thinks he is and thinks that he's adequately at least as good as Aiyuk and Stefon Diggs, which is fantastic news. But the bigger good news to me is that Sean Payton said no, because I think he knows that, hey, how are picks going to help me get back to the playoffs this year? If I'm going to win 6 games, it'll be the first time I've ever done it. We've heard time and time again, and it's awesome to see that the lofty things he's shouting out there are actually matched with his actions. Denver Broncos went on and did something else today that really make me feel as if the other thing is we're now talking, the Denver Broncos now have had 3 former wide receivers on this team who've signed with other teams and are expected to be playing meaningful snaps for them. Not just they're on the practice squad now, but they all are expected to get real snaps with that team. So you have Brandon Johnson going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You obviously have Tim Patrick going to the Detroit Lions, and then we're talking Jalen Virgil going to the Buffalo Bills. And so how good must our receiver room and must this squad truly be if our players are getting picked up and then signing with big teams who have big aspirations of making the playoffs? So the other big move that just happened today was that we know the offseason love, and one of the coolest plays in the entire preseason was Lavelle Bailey and his pick six for 90-something yards against the Green Bay Packers. Lavelle Bailey made this practice squad. We remember that it was Sean Payton's calling Lavelle Bailey in the 7th round. The draft was still going, and Sean Payton called him and said, hey, we're not going to draft you, but we really want you in Denver. And he not only called him once, but called him twice, and he was the only head coach who did that. And so Sean really, really wanted him. And so now we look at our inside linebacker room with Cody Barton. We cut Jonas Griffith. He's gone. And so we got Alex Singleton, Justin Strnad, and then Lavelle Bailey was supposed to be that other person in there with a very high upside. Obviously, multiple other teams wanted Lavelle Bailey. Well, today, the Denver Broncos cut Lavelle Bailey. They hope to get him back on practice squad if he clears waivers. My guess is with how many teams wanted him during the offseason, I think the chances of him missing waivers, I think it'll be hard for the Denver Broncos to get him. So why did they do that? Well, they did that because the Denver Broncos watched during joint training camp practice this beast of a linebacker who has had actual NFL snaps, mostly in special teams contexts for both the Baltimore Ravens and the Green Bay Packers. His name is Christian Welch. Interesting thing about him is like now he is vying to back up Josie Jewell, who left, and Josie Jewell was the starting linebacker when Christian Welch played with him at Iowa. So just very interesting. But again, to me, it's a sign that Sean Payton, while there's a lot of upside with Bailey, we have a guy who's actually played in the NFL, and there's no potential. You know what he is, and his ceiling might not be as high as Bailey, but you've seen his floor. And so to me, that's another sign that Sean Payton's not rebuilding for making the playoffs in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. He wants dudes in this locker room right now who can get it done. And I think both of these things really show his actions are matching what he said. The Denver Broncos are going to shock the world, and that's something we can all definitely count on. So got a huge week of content for us as we are going into the battleground against the Seattle Seahawks a week from Sunday. Can't wait. I have an interview scheduled with an insider in Seattle to break down really what are their biggest moves, what Bo Nix's return to the West Coast is going to be like, what's that new offense and defense look like with a brand new head coach in Seattle, breaking all that down for us. We got a fire up coming for us on Thursday, which is going to be really cool. And then a question for all y'all is I've been wondering, I've never live streamed and done like a watch party. So is that something you're interested in, or would you prefer me doing like a breakdown after the game like I did most of last season? Be cool to do a live watch along party, but I get really raucous and sometimes I'm like, I don't know, not safe for work, and I start yelling and hitting things. But it'd be cool to see Bo Nix's throws all together here. But if you would prefer I do like a post-game reaction and all that kind of stuff, I'll just watch by myself and do it. So let me know in the comments, should I live stream our first game against the Seattle Seahawks? Either way, we've got a ton to be excited about and a ton to believe in. Oh!